Hello everyone, semi-retired Bob here. I went from this to this in just a little under 7 months. Stick around to find out how. Oh, hi. Hello everyone, semi-retired Bob here. I talk about the carnivore diet and all things related to the carnivore diet and miscellaneous odds and ends. Today I have just a few miscellaneous odds and ends to talk about. It's really cold here, so I'm inside the teen center. I'm going to walk some laps in here. It's going to take a while because it's a really short track, but I'm hoping to get a mile or two inside today. We'll see what happens. Just trying to get the joints loosened back up. But it's frightfully cold outside today. I'm glad I made a trip to town yesterday and bought myself a hat. I don't normally wear hats, and when I do, they're ball caps just to keep the sun out of my eyes. But it's really cold out, and with that haircut I gave myself, for the first time ever, I started noticing that my head was getting cold as the temperature dropped yesterday. So I did run into town and find a hat to buy. We'll see. I don't like wearing hats like this. I like ball caps. But right now it's a little on the chilly side, and my hands are cold. The temperature is starting to come up in here a little bit. The water froze overnight. Got the cold water working again. I think the hot water tank is frozen up, but they had the heat pump set on regular here, and I came in and figured out how to turn on the emergency use heat, and the temperature is starting to come back up, so we'll see. But it's warmer in here than it is out there. And the sun is shining down on the property now, as you can see from the bright light behind there. I'll turn this towards the front door. You can see it's very nice and bright outside today. So, here, let me adjust this just a little bit. Now it's crooked. What in the world? Oh. That's mostly straight, but yeah, so it's really, really cold, not just here, most of the country. I mean, it's below 30 degrees in parts of Florida. It did not quite get down to single digits here in southeastern North Carolina. I think the low overnight was 12, but it's not supposed to quite make it up to freezing today, so we're in for another cold night tonight, but then it's supposed to get up above freezing tomorrow for Christmas Day. Hopefully that happens. I apologize for the Steelers sweatshirt again, but it's the warmest thing I've got. And I won't say I was cold last night because I wasn't. I slept with the heater right next to my cot, and then my extra blanket, I kind of extended it out because there's the little walkway between my bunk and the dresser, and I took my extra blanket and stretched it over and tacked it to the top of the dressers, so it created a little tunnel for the heat to get up into the bed area for me, which I slept really warm last night. The rest of the trailer was really cold when I got up, but under the covers I was plenty warm with that heat blowing into the covers. I did have somebody ask me if I would ever consider insulating the trailer, because it's not insulated at all right now, which is why it's so cold in there. But the problem is when I'm standing up inside the trailer, the roof is like, my head barely clears the roof in there. And to insulate it, you know, I'd have to add at least a 1/2 inch to the floor and a 1/2 inch to the ceiling, which would make it so that I couldn't stand up straight. And I think standing up straight is a lot more important than having insulation, because it's realistically, my trailer is not supposed to be where it gets this cold. This is a very unusual amount of cold for this area of North Carolina, but it's unusually cold for most of the country. But let's talk about processed food for just a moment. And you know, even people on the other side of the aisle, and when I say other side of the aisle, I mean, okay, where was I? Oh yeah, when I say people from the other side of the aisle, I mean the people that are fanatical about eating only plants. I have nothing against them. I think they're on their first steps of finding better health because they're thinking about what they're eating. My question is, if they're so wild about plants and they love plants, why are they always trying to make their plants taste like meat? Shouldn't that tell them what their body is craving? And, you know, both people in carnivore and the other side, you know, we both preach eat whole foods, you know, grows in the ground, or eats what grows in the ground. You know, one ingredient whole foods is the way to go, regardless of which side of the spectrum you're on. So, you know, they both almost everybody on YouTube will say, avoid processed meat, or not processed meat, avoid processed foods, highly processed foods. Yet look at the ingredients on some of this fake meat that's out there. How does that slip through the cracks, and why do they sing those praises when they just got done telling you in the previous sentence, don't eat highly processed food? And if you look at some of the ingredients, some of the main things we talk about on this channel: no highly processed foods, no vegetable seed oils. Well, what's in most of the fake meat? Vegetable seed oils. No carbs, no sugar. Carbs and sugar are basically the same thing. In fact, once you have chewed them up, eating a piece of bread is really no different than just eating a spoonful of sugar. It turns into exactly the same thing once it gets past your taste buds. So, I don't know. It's just, what I'm working off here is my note sheet from the live stream yesterday and some topics that I never really got to. So that was just one of the things that I thought of. I find it interesting. If somebody can explain to me what the appeal of highly processed food that tastes like meat is, but it doesn't really. From what I understand, I've never actually eaten any of the stuff, so I can't say for sure, but I mean, if you want something to taste like bacon, why don't you just have a piece of bacon? And if you want something that tastes like a steak, why don't you just have a piece of steak? Because you know that's natural, and it's good for you. But, yeah, I mentioned this in the live stream. I'll put their names in the ending credits, but Kismet and Bert and Vincent have all sent super thanks in the last 24 hours or so. So thank you all very much. It means an awful lot to me. Any small donation helps out a lot. But the best donation you can make is hit the like, hit subscribe, and leave a comment. That tells YouTube that people are enjoying what I'm doing here, and they'll share it out with more people. And that's really the whole point of this channel, is to get the message about the carnivore diet out to people. the more people we reach, the stronger the movement will be, and the faster we as Americans can regain our health and become the vital, strong nation that we once were. At least if we start at the individual level, it will eventually snowball out, and we'll all get healthier. Let's see here. What else do I want to talk about? Oh, there's a few mistakes that I was going to go over. Mistakes that people are making on the carnivore diet, ketovore, ketogenic, low carb, whatever you're doing. And the biggest mistake that people make is not eating enough. And I know that's hard to do, which is why I don't suggest you jump straight in to one meal a day. When you first start, I would start with your regular 3 meals a day. Just make them carnivore meals. And you will eventually, we've talked about this a lot in other videos, you'll eventually just not be hungry and you'll skip a meal. And then you'll start adding food to your other 2 meals, and then you'll end up like me. Well, hopefully not. What a horrifying thought that is for you. But, I eat just 1 meal a day now, but I eat somewhere between 2 and 3 pounds of meat in a sitting. And then I'm done for another 23 to 25 hours. I just don't need to eat again. But not eating enough, especially at the very start, is a big mistake. On other channels, they call it priming. My suggestion to you, and I've seen evidence that this does actually help, not scientific evidence, just anecdotal evidence, people that have relayed what happened to them to me in comments and emails and things like that, that in the first few weeks, try to stuff yourself a little more. Eat literally as much as you can hold the first few weeks, just to help you get used to eating bigger meals, so you're not eating too little. And the other thing that goes along with not eating enough is eating too lean. Now, there is no one right answer for any of this. There's no such thing as, well, that's too much fat for one person, or there's no such thing as that's not enough fat for one person. You have to kind of experiment with it and see. Sorry, I'm still waiting on that Amazon order. But you have to experiment with it and see what works best for you and how you feel when you're doing this. So make sure, I would start somewhere between 1 to 1 and 2 to 1. And the way I judge that is, I've mentioned this before, make sure that 7/8 of your chunk of meat is the meat, and then at least 1/8 of it is the fat. And that will get you close to a good starting point. And then from there, if you're like, well, I do feel better, but I still don't feel great, the first step I would take is add more fat. Don't start off by cutting out fat. Add more fat. And if you feel a little better but still don't feel fantastic, in a couple of weeks, start adding a little more fat. And then if you get to the point where it's like, oh, no, that wasn't it, then you can go ahead and start cutting the fat back and just keep cutting it down and cutting it down. Not each meal. When you add or subtract things, give it a full week to 2 weeks to see how your body's going to react. And then you'll know when you've found the right spot. You don't, it can sometimes be a very long process. For me, it was not, because I'd done a lot of research before I started, and I just started off with adding butter to everything just to up the fat content. I still think I need to add a little bit more fat, but as of right now, I'm still losing, still getting healthier, and so we'll see how it goes down the line. But yeah, don't don't get caught in the traps of not eating enough and eating too lean. And these are probably the two hardest mistakes to overcome, because if you're my age or older, literally your entire life, what's the two things you've been told? Don't eat too much, don't eat any fat. Cut out the fat, limit your portion size. It's been preached at us from the time we were little kids until now. Don't eat too much. Oh, you eat that much, you're going to get fat. So these can be two really hard things to overcome. So just be aware of them, try to stay conscious of them, and just make sure that you're getting enough. I did see a commercial yesterday that I have kind of a different take from a lot of people, and it makes me a little angry. But there was a commercial for a brand of chicken, and their big tagline was "No antibiotics ever." Great. So what do you do when your animal gets sick? You just let it die? I mean, it's not like the antibiotics stay in the animal forever. They just don't. How would you feel if, your doctor said, well, you've got this infection and it could kill you, but I'm not going to use any antibiotics ever, so you don't get anything for your sickness? How would you feel about that doctor? Everybody wants to talk about how, treating the animals humanely, and I'm all for that. Cage-free, free-range chickens and free-range animals, I'm all for it. But they do still get sick. And I think that using antibiotics are perfectly okay in those situations. If an animal gets sick, you don't want to just let it die. You got to get it healthy again. So that's my thoughts on that subject. That's my thoughts for today. Don't forget out today, get 1% better, even if you have to walk inside a really small space because it's really cold out. And I think most of the country is experiencing this cold. Hopefully it breaks off soon and gets back to normal, because I certainly don't like it this cold. If it's going to be this cold in winters, I may as well stay in Omaha, because there's a brand new furnace in the house where I live in Omaha, and I can stay warm and toasty in there, because it's not a heat pump. It's an actual, because you're in Omaha, they don't really use a lot of heat pumps in Omaha. It's an actual gas burning furnace. It stays warm there. And if it's going to be like this and I'm going to have to stay inside anyway, I might as well be at home where I've got my full kitchen to use. So we'll see how the rest of the winter goes. I mean, this is certainly better. It was -8 there this morning, I think, with wind chill. There's been a couple of days where the wind chill broke -60 this week, so I'm glad I'm not outside trying to walk there. But anyway, that's all I've got for you today, guys. Have a great day. Get out there, be 1% better. I will see you tomorrow.